Time to get ready to go on an exciting adventure once again as we explore 10 more things that you didn't know about the Goonies. Released in 1985, The Goonies tells the story of kids from the Goondocks who are about to lose their homes to greedy property developers. And once they find a map, they head out on a dangerous quest to find lost hidden treasure, with plenty of traps along the way, where they must also look out for the evil Fratelli family, a family of outlaws who are also hunting down the treasure. Where the kids are helped by one of the Fratelli brothers, Sloth, who is horrifically disfigured but also has a heart of gold. This classic movie was created by Steven Spielberg and Richard Donner, and is still considered a fan favourite by those who grew up watching it. So what is it about this movie? Why, after nearly 40 years later, we still can't get enough of it? Well, today we are going to find out by looking into 10 more things that you didn't know about the Goonies. As always, I have another Goonies episode that features other discoveries about the Goonies, so be sure to check that one out too. So with that, let's try and figure out why the Goonies are good enough.
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
Number 10. The inspiration came from a real-life group of kids and living with a learning disability. The Goonies may seem like a fun adventure movie about a group of kids who are bored one rainy Saturday who end up going on a fantastical Indiana Jones-style adventure in order to find pirate treasure, but it actually came from a very personal place within its writer and producer Steven Spielberg. According to the website cheatsheet.com, Spielberg got the idea for the Goonies from a real group of kids who helped him thrive and deal with the difficulties of having an undiagnosed learning disability.
These kids are all kind of like friends. They're all sort of outcasts. They need each other because the more popular kids don't want anything to do with them.
The website further claims that making fun movies like The Goonies was Spielberg's way of coping with the difficulties, adding that he doesn't see himself as a victim and that making movies saved him from shame and guilt. As someone who also has learning disabilities, this is something I can really get behind, and actually gives me a lot of inspiration and motivation. Number 9. Spielberg directed several scenes from The Goonies. Going off topic here, but there is often online debates and discussions as to who is the true director of the Spielberg-produced movie Poltergeist. It's credited to Tobe Hooper, but there are many pictures of Spielberg on set looking as though he's directing, with several of the cast of that movie claiming that Spielberg was more than just a producer on Poltergeist. Well, it seems to be the same for the Goonies. By accounts, it seems that like Poltergeist, he was very much a hands-on producer, who was frequently on set and contributing to the movie. Even though Superman the movie and Lethal Weapon director Richard Donner was the director of the Goonies, there are several scenes in which Spielberg himself actually directed, including the scene with the Goonies banging on the underground pipes, and a deleted subplot where some gorillas escape from a zoo and run havoc in the town of Astoria. Spielberg was always on the set, and even something of a second unit director capacity, with many of the cast and crew seeing Spielberg as a co-director. But there are also claims that Goonies' actual credited director, Richard Donner, was still very much in charge. Number 8. Directing the Goonies wasn't easy for Richard Donner. Before the Goonies, Donner and Spielberg had already known each other for a long time, with Donner being something of a mentor to Spielberg back in the day when they were working for television. And the two directors had wanted to work on a project together, but by some accounts, Donner had some difficulties with directing the Goonies, thanks to Spielberg being more of a hands-on producer and having to deal with a child cast. In regards to Spielberg always being in the frame, website IndieWire shared a remark by Stuart Baird, who was a frequent collaborator with Donner, having edited Superman the movie and Lethal Weapon. He said, quote, "I think it was a difficult time, because it's very difficult to have a producer on the show who's also a director, and I think Dick allowed Spielberg to shoot a lot of second unit stuff." And he would further say, "I would imagine that it wasn't the warmest or easiest of collaborations." Mikey actor Sean Astin would talk about how he and his fellow child stars would play pranks on Donner and would really wind him up, and how he would get mad at them for goofing around, and while screaming his lungs out at them, they would continue to play jokes on him like squirting him with water, to which he'll always end up getting in on the joke and end up laughing with the kids, finding it to be impossible to stay mad at them.
I think the uniquest part of working with kids and this many kids in the film is that every night I'm contemplating suicide.
By all accounts, Donner loved the kids and got along really well with them, and that it was a fun shoot. But some of the pranks and mucking around that took place behind the scenes may have tested his patience a little bit.
Kids suck.
The feeling I get when reading all this behind the scenes stuff is that Donner had something of a love-hate relationship with working with the Goonies kids. Yes, he loved them, but there probably was a few struggles and irritations here and there. Can't blame him, kids can be pretty annoying. Number 7. Chris Columbus based the script on some of his own childhood memories. The Goonies was the 6th movie to be produced by Spielberg's production company, Amblin, which had previously produced E.T., Poltergeist and Gremlins, and after Goonies would also produce other favourites like Back to the Future, Inner Space and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Spielberg came up with the story of the Goonies, but asked Chris Columbus to write the script. Columbus had already written the script for Gremlins, which Spielberg purchased all the way back in 1981, and after that movie was a hit, he hired Columbus to write the screenplay for the Goonies. Columbus based a lot of the Goonies on his own childhood years, where he grew up in a boring factory town in Ohio, and to pass time he would visit abandoned coal mines. And incidentally, the Goonies was originally going to be set in Ohio, till the location was changed to Astoria, Oregon. Columbus worked on 2 movies with Amblin at the same time, one of those being The Goonies of course, and the other being the not so well known Young Sherlock Holmes. And writing these scripts took about 2 years. After the success of Goonies, Columbus would go on to direct Home Alone, Mrs. Doubtfire, and the first 2 Harry Potter movies. So, I wonder if in the original script, if the Goonies didn't hang out at docks, but rather coal mines. Number 6. Goonies Games. There were actually several tie-in games to help kids at home go on their own Goonie adventures. First up, there was a board game which was brought out by Milton Bradley. And yes, board games based on the Goonies are actually very common now, as there seems to be tons of current board games based off the Goonies. However, this one actually came out in 1985 alongside the movie. The objective as players are to join the Goonies, travel around the board, and to end up at One-Eye Willie's treasure, while avoiding traps and the Fratelli family. The board itself looks colourful and exciting and captures the feel of the movie, and even features the octopus which was deleted from the final film. Sadly, this board game has become more or less forgotten. Then we have a Goonies video game released by Atari, and firstly, just look at the cover art on the box. Wow, that's amazing. The game itself is a platform one which features locations from the movie where players have to solve puzzles in order to progress to the next stage, and all up there are 8 stages. Despite also being forgotten with the passing of time, the Goonies video game actually got very positive reviews, with one Computer Video Game Magazine review praising it as the best platform game that they had ever played. The graphics may look primitive by today's standards, but I guess for 1985 they were on cue. And of course, there was a Goonies 2 video game, which acted as a sequel to the movie, and it featured a mermaid called Annie, which I spoke about in my previous Goonies episode. Number 5, the Goonies teaser trailer is a homage to Spielberg and Donner's previous works. So in recent years, an early teaser trailer for the Goonies has resurfaced, and I absolutely love it, as it shows titles of Spielberg's and Donner's previous movies appearing on screen, accompanied by their theme songs, with each title leaving a letter behind, with the letters combining to spell the word Goonies. First up we get the G from Gremlins, the O from The Omen, and then another O from Raiders of the Lost Ark, an N from Close Encounters, and an I from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, the E from E.T., and the S from Superman. Where as mentioned, these random letters are put together to spell Goonies. Yeah, it doesn't actually say much about the movie itself, but I still think it's a really creative way to promote the movie, and shows the rich vastness of great movies that these two filmmakers had worked on. And seeing all these titles definitely gets you hyped. However, this gimmick of the Goonies being a celebration of previous movies that Spielberg and Donner had previously worked on wouldn't be used again.
As Steven Spielberg presents The Goonies, a Richard Donner film.
Number 4. Secrets of the Map. One of the most memorable props associated with the movie was that of One-Eye Willie's map, which prompts the Goonies to head out on their death-defying adventure. It is also quite possibly one of the most famous and most recognisable movie props of all time. Well, although the map may look like it's naturally aged over the passing of time, the process to get it aged wasn't so conventional, and had blood, sweat and tears poured into it. Literally blood. Before filming, the Goonies production designer Michael River felt that the map didn't look weathered and aged enough, so he spent an entire day in his hotel room pouring coffee on the map prop and trying to smudge it. Still feeling that that wasn't enough, he then cut one of his fingers and smeared his own blood on the edges of the map. River would go on to speak of this crazy coffee and blood dousing process, saying, quote, "You do these crazy things, you get so into it." And it worked. You look at the map and it looks like an old map that has seen many years and battles. Apologies if I've ruined it for everyone, knowing that the Goonies map is merely a prop covered in coffee and blood. Blech. Number 3. Chunk promotes the Goonies in a spectacular way. So in order to promote the movie, Chunk actor Jeff Cohen appeared on British TV talk show Wogan, wearing some comical bird hat. And this kid is just amazing in this interview.
How old are you, 11?
11 going on 45.
Yeah.
He's quick thinking and genuinely hilarious, keeping the interviewer on his toes.
Who found you for this part?
Steven and Dick.
Oh, he's Steven
They
to
found
you,
me
is he?
lying in a gutter.
He's bit-
Now, to put things into perspective, Terry Wogan was a talk show host who would have celebrity guests on his shows, where he would often make cheeky jibes at them at their expense. Now, it didn't come from a place of nastiness. I think that he was a nice man, but I do think that he enjoyed being a smartass to his guests and catching them off guard. That very year that he had Cohen on his show, he also had Roger Moore, where they were talking about the Bond film A View to a Kill, where Wogan makes a swipe at Roger Moore's age.
You're not getting a bit long in the tooth.
He's charming, isn't he?
As well as Michael J. Fox, who was promoting Back to the Future, where he suggests that the car is more memorable than the actor.
Isn't the real star of the film the car?
Well, yeah, but you don't have to tell me that.
So if the charm of Roger Moore and the likability of Michael J. Fox were no match for Wogan, then this poor kid doesn't stand a chance. Well, no. Cohen is so fast and witty, to me it comes across that Wogan couldn't quite keep up with him.
What about the eating? I mean, you're not... do you eat a lot?
No, I'm into salads and aerobics.
Wogan would throw out funny remarks at Cohen's expense, but he would quickly respond with a funny punchline and was definitely getting the most laughs from the audience.
Yeah, but what do you eat?
Food.
Yep, this talk show host was no match for this child actor. It's honestly a great and adorable piece of television. And once again, I don't think that Wogan was mean or horrible in any way, but I do think that he liked to outwit his guests. And yet, he was no match for this funny little boy.
Am I gonna get more parts?
If you slim down, yeah. If you lose weight.
How can I? I'm at my physical peak here.
I think it's a shame that Cohen didn't go on to be a comedian, or at least write comedy scripts, because watching that clip, you can see he had a natural talent at timing and being very funny. Number 2, alternative ending. There are many deleted scenes that were cut out of the Goonies, many of which have resurfaced over the years, or at least having still images of certain deleted scenes turning up. Thanks to the Goonies DVD, we already got a glimpse of some of these deleted scenes, which includes the Goonies stopping at a store where they are hassled by the bully Troy, who lights the map on fire, along with the infamous scene where the Goonies get attacked by an octopus in the movie's climax. The most famously talked about missing scene is the as-mentioned scene where some gorillas escape from a zoo and run amok on a golf course, where they go on to steal Troy's car. I can remember watching the special commentary with the Goonie actors on the DVD, where one of them mentioned that there was a scene with gorillas in the Goonies, and I was like, wait, what? There was gorillas in this movie too? I found that fascinating and always wanted to know just how gorillas were also added to the Goonies adventure. Another deleted scene is an alternative ending, which shows the Goonies and all the other characters at the Goondock neighborhood, namely outside the Walsh household. It's basically the same scene where Rosalita finds a bag of rubies, which in turn saves the Goondocks, only it's shot outside the Walsh's house. And unlike the final ending, this scene doesn't seem to take place straight after the adventure, but later on, as you can tell by the character's change of wardrobe, particularly Sloth, who is now wearing one of Chunk's Hawaiian shirts. Other seemingly lost deleted scenes includes a scene where Sloth eats an entire T-bone steak, Andy becomes a Goonie by taking the sacred Goonie oath, the Goonies protest the demolition of the Goondocks, and Data uses a gadget built in his armory of gadgets called the Intimidator, which blows up his clothes to make him look muscular. But like all these other gadgets, it doesn't work. Hats Off Entertainment has already made a video about the gorilla scene and the original ending, which goes into great detail about these scenes, and if you're interested, I highly recommend watching his video. It's very insightful and really entertaining, so I'll put a link in the description below. Number 1. Goonies are good enough. So Goonies was released in June 1985 and would make $125 million on its $19 million budget, making it the 9th highest grossing movie of 1985. And if you can believe it, the Goonies didn't open up to number 1 in the box office, but was trailing behind Rambo First Blood Part 2. Wow, who would have thought? The movie got very positive reviews from critics, with it being considered a fun roller coaster ride movie, full of all the Steven Spielberg isms that everyone knows and loves. My favourite review comes from Vanity, which described it as, quote, a dangerous Disneyland sort of film, stamped with Steven Spielberg's style of high fun. And I think that kind of perfectly sums up the Goonies. The movie's popularity hasn't dwindled in time either. It has only continued to grow more and more, where it's now considered a childhood classic by those who grew up watching it, and one of the greatest movies to come out of the 80s. And to this day, there are still public events held to celebrate the Goonies. In 2017, the Goonies were selected by the National Film Registry for preservation for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Still, nearly 40 years later, those who grew up watching the Goonies still love it and continue to watch it, many of whom are now middle-aged and have their own families. So why is it after all this time we still can't get enough of the Goonies? Well, probably because when we watch the movie, it takes us back to an innocent time, our childhoods, a time full of fun and excitement and adventure. And maybe the Goonies makes us joyfully relive that excitement of being a kid, while also being a new adventure for new, younger viewers. And for that reason alone, the Goonies will last forever. Because after all, Goonies never say die. And so the cycle of the Goonies will just continue, with each new generation watching it and then passing it on to their kids and so on. And to me, that is just brilliant. I think The Goonies is one of the most joyful and celebrated movies ever, and a hallmark of adventure cinema. Anyway, I'm Minty, and remember, Goonies never say die. See ya!